I thought I was just going to the doctor for a routine checkup. Nothing serious, just something men my age deal with. But what he told me that day didn't just change how I saw myself. It changed everything I thought I knew about my family, about my marriage, about the life I'd built for over 20 years. Turns out, the truth had been hiding in plain sight the whole time. I wish I could say we had a happy marriage, but that wouldn't be the truth. We were never really a perfect match. Not even close. From the beginning, Diane and I rubbed each other the wrong way. She liked parties, I liked peace and quiet. She liked crowds, I liked calm. Even the way we argued was different. I shut down, she lit up. But we stayed together, year after year. And the reason was simple: our son. From the day he was born, he became the center of our world. Or maybe I should say, the only thing holding it together. He was a good kid. Still is. Smart. Kind. Never got in trouble. He made us both look better than we were. It's hard to explain, but when he was in the room, we felt like a real family. Diane and I had our moments, sure. Some good years. Vacations, birthdays, a few laughs here and there. But most of the time, we just got by, coexisting, living under the same roof like polite strangers. No passion, no real connection. But neither one of us wanted to break it up, especially not with a kid in the mix. I used to tell myself that staying together was the right thing to do. That maybe over time, love would grow. Or at least something like it. But it never really did. We didn't hate each other. We didn't cheat or fight constantly. We just drifted. Quietly. Slowly. Until the only real conversations we had were about our son, school, college, friends, money. And that's what kept us going. Him. He was always in the middle, but in a good way. When we were both in the same room with him, things felt easier. I could talk to Diane without tension. She could smile without sarcasm. It was like he gave us both something to focus on that wasn't each other. And for a long time, I thought that was enough. Our son didn't grow up with yelling or slammed doors. We kept things steady for him, gave him everything he needed. I worked hard. Diane stayed home when he was young, then picked up some side work once he hit high school. She was always good at making herself useful when it counted. Looking back, maybe I stayed longer than I should have. Maybe we both did. But when you've got a kid who looks up to you, who believes in you, who still asks you to come watch his baseball games when he's 19, well, you put your own feelings aside. You stay. I never thought I'd be the guy who ends a marriage after 25 years. I thought we'd just ride it out, grow old, maybe learn to like each other again. But life has a way of pulling the rug out from under you. And sometimes, the truth you never saw coming was right in front of you the whole time. We weren't really a couple. We were just two people playing the part for someone we both loved. And I'd do it all over again for him. But I can't lie, something was always off. I just didn't know how far off it really was. You'd think a man like me, born into money, raised with business sense, would be better at spotting someone's true intentions. But love, or something close to it, can cloud judgment. Or maybe it was pride. Maybe I just didn't want to admit my family had been right all along. They never liked Diane. From the start, my parents were polite but cold. My sister refused to even come to our engagement dinner. My brother pulled me aside and said, "You sure this is love? Or just a long-term investment for her?" I laughed it off. Told him he was being cynical. "She loves me," I said. "She stuck with me when I was nothing." But that was the story Diane told well. That she'd fallen for me back when I was still finding my way. That she saw the man I'd become before anyone else did. She leaned into that role. The patient girlfriend who waited through law school, who believed in me when the checks were small. My family thought it was all an act. They saw something I didn't. It wasn't that Diane was mean, or loud, or disrespectful. No, she played her part too well for that. Always just sweet enough, just grateful enough. But behind her smiles was a certain emptiness. A sense that she wasn't really there for me, but for what I came with. The name, the future, the comfort. My mother was the most vocal. "She doesn't love you," she told me, plain as day, 2 weeks before the wedding. "She loves what you can give her." I remember getting mad. Told her to stay out of it. That I was a grown man. That she'd learned to love Diane, just like I had. She never did. Over the years, the distance between Diane and my family stayed firm. They were civil, sure. Holidays, birthdays, polite handshakes and strained smiles. But it was always surface level. She didn't care for them, and they didn't trust her. But our son? Oh, they loved him. Truly. He was the only one who bridged that gap. My father taught him how to fish. My mother took him on museum trips. My sister called him her favorite nephew. He had the charm of Diane, but the grounded nature of my side. Everyone agreed. He was a good kid. Nothing like the tension around him. And Diane knew it. She used him like a shield. When conversations got too personal, she brought up their son. When someone criticized her spending or lack of involvement in the family business, she'd say, "Well, I'm focused on raising your grandson." It always worked. At least for a while. Still, I think my parents always suspected something deeper. My mother, especially. She had a sixth sense for these things. More than once, she asked me if I was truly happy. I always gave her the same answer. "We're doing fine." But we weren't. Not really. My family wasn't cruel. But they were sharp. They saw cracks before I did. They picked up on the way Diane dodged questions, the way she always steered conversations back to money, security, what's best for the boy. It wasn't about us. Never had been. And once things started falling apart, they weren't surprised. They didn't say, "I told you so." They didn't need to. Because somewhere deep down, I already knew. It started small. Subtle. I'd get up in the morning and feel a heaviness in my back that hadn't been there before. A little more tired after work. A little less interest in the things that used to come naturally. At first, I chalked it up to age. That's what men do. We brush it off. Getting older, I'd say. No big deal. But something felt off. I was in good shape. Always took care of myself. Ate right. Exercised a couple times a week. Nothing extreme. But lately, I wasn't bouncing back the same. Sleep didn't fix the tired. Food didn't fix the weakness. And I started noticing other things. Private things. The kind most men don't talk about unless they're in a doctor's office with the door closed. I ignored it for a while. I had too much going on. My firm was in the middle of a merger. My son was heading into his final year of college. And Diane, well, she was as checked out as ever. She noticed something was wrong, of course she did. But she didn't ask questions. Just gave me that same old line she always used when she didn't want to deal with something. "You should probably go get looked at." So I did. I scheduled the appointment during a long lunch break. Told my assistant to block out the rest of the afternoon. Nothing serious, I figured. Just low testosterone or something. Easy fix. Shot, gel, pill, problem solved. The doctor was a quiet man, older than me, with the kind of eyes that have seen a lot. He ran a few tests, asked a few uncomfortable questions, then sent me on my way with a nod and said, "We'll call when the results come in." A week passed. Then another. I didn't think about it much until they called and said I needed to come in to discuss things in person. That's never a good sign. I showed up alone. Sat in the little exam room, reading some ancient sports magazine until he came in holding a file. He didn't sit. Just stood there flipping through papers, then finally looked at me. "Mr. Gallagher," he said, "we found something." That's a sentence that makes your stomach turn. He explained it plain and simple. Something about underdeveloped vas deferens, about genetic markers, about a condition that had been present since birth. His voice was calm, clinical. Then he said the words that stayed in my head long after I left that office. "You've never produced viable sperm. Medically speaking, you've never been able to father a child." I blinked. Sat still. Tried to smile like he was joking. "I have a son," I said, half laughing. He didn't laugh back. I walked out of there with a quiet ringing in my ears. Got into my car, turned the key, and just sat there. It didn't make sense. I had a son. A smart, kind, thoughtful young man. He was mine. He had to be mine. I'd been there for everything. His first steps. His first words. I taught him how to shave, how to tie a tie, how to stand up for himself. There had to be a mistake. That night, I didn't tell Diane. I needed time to think. Needed to wrap my head around what I'd just been told. But something in my gut twisted hard. And for the first time in years, I remembered our first few years of marriage. The arguments, the fights, the late nights, the way we almost split, and how she got pregnant right after we said we were done. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there in bed, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling fan. Diane slept next to me, snoring quietly, completely unaware that everything had changed. For her, it was just another night. For me, it was the night I started questioning everything I ever knew about my own life. The doctor's words played over and over in my head like a broken record. "You've never been able to father a child." I wanted to believe it was some kind of lab mistake. A misprint. Maybe they mixed up the charts, or maybe there was a second Gallagher in the system. But the truth was, the man looked me in the eye when he said it. And he said it like someone who's had to say it before. calm, certain, final. The words didn't just hit hard. They cracked something deep inside. I kept thinking about my son, the kid I raised, the boy who used to sit on my shoulders during 4th of July fireworks, the teenager I drove cross-country with to check out colleges, the one who called me last week just to talk about a tough math class. My son. I loved him. That wasn't even a question. But if what the doctor said was true, then he wasn't mine. Not by blood, anyway. That night I sat in my office with a bottle of scotch and pulled out old photo albums. I flipped through pictures of his baby years, school plays, birthdays, beach trips. I wasn't trying to find proof or clues. I was trying to remind myself that those memories were real. That all those moments, they happened. I was there. I raised him. But deep down, something was eating at me. Because no matter how much I loved that kid, the math didn't lie. The doctor didn't lie. Which meant someone had. Diane. The next morning I woke up groggy, half hungover, and walked into the kitchen. She was making coffee, scrolling through her phone like always. I watched her for a moment, wondering if she had any idea what was coming. "You doing okay?" she asked, not looking up. "Fine," I said, lying through my teeth. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I wasn't ready. I needed time. Answers. A plan. So I went back to the doctor. I wanted to hear it again, this time looking him in the eye, stone cold sober. "I just want to make sure I understood you correctly," I said, voice tight. "You're saying it's genetically impossible for me to have fathered a child?" "Any child." He nodded. No hesitation. "That's correct. No chance. No rare condition. No miracle exception." "I've seen rare cases," he said. "But your results aren't one of them. You were born sterile. This isn't something that developed later. It's something you've lived with your whole life." I left his office numb, hollow. But by the time I got home, the numbness had turned into something else. Anger. The kind of anger that builds slowly, like a pot starting to boil. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't slamming doors. Not yet. But the fire was there. Because now I remembered it all. The timing, the tension, the pregnancy that came out of nowhere. Diane had told me she was just late. That it was finally our time. She'd cried tears of joy when she showed me that little stick with 2 pink lines. But now I had to ask myself, was she crying because she was happy? Or because she knew what she'd done? I spent the next few days digging through memories like a man searching for something he'd lost in the dark, trying to figure out where the truth started to bend, where the lie began. And the more I looked back, the clearer it all became. I should have seen it. Hell, maybe I did see it, but chose to look away. Our first years of marriage weren't easy. We got into it a lot. Money, timing, priorities, all the usual things couples fight about. But under all that was the tension around one topic that never went away. We couldn't get pregnant. We tried. Believe me, we tried. Appointments, trackers, vitamins. Nothing worked. Every negative test chipped away at us, especially her. She said all the right things at first, that we'd keep trying, that it would happen when it was meant to, but I could feel her getting more distant every month. Then things got bad. We had a fight one night that nearly ended the whole marriage. We were both worn down, said things we couldn't take back. At one point, I even started packing a bag. That was the night we said maybe it was time to walk away. And then, boom. 2 months later, she was pregnant. Just like that. No fertility clinic, no treatments, no follow-ups. After 2 years of nothing, it suddenly happened. I remember being stunned. Happy, yes. Relieved. But stunned. I asked her how. She said, "We just stopped stressing. That's what the books say. Sometimes it only works when you let go." I believed her. I wanted to believe her. We'd been through hell trying. The idea that it just happened naturally, right after we almost broke up, it felt like fate stepping in. Now, I saw it for what it was. A cover story. I started remembering little things. The long errands. The nights she said she needed air. The sudden switch in mood, like something had lifted off her shoulders. I also remembered how much she pushed back any time I mentioned a paternity test, even as a joke. When our son was born, a family friend made a comment, just messing around, about how he looked more like her than me. I laughed, said something dumb like, "Maybe we should get him tested, just in case." She didn't laugh. She got real cold, real fast. Said something about how trust was sacred, and if I ever questioned her again, I could sleep on the couch. I dropped it. And over time, the doubts faded. Our boy was smart, kind, polite. He didn't look exactly like me, no, but kids take after all sorts of relatives. That's what I told myself. I wanted to believe he was mine, because in every way that mattered, he was. But now, looking back, it was like watching a movie for the second time, catching all the little clues you missed the first time around. And one thing stood out more than anything else. She got pregnant the moment she realized I was ready to leave. That timing wasn't a miracle. It was a plan. And whether she did it out of fear or calculation, I didn't know. But I knew this. She'd lied to me for over 20 years. Built a whole life on top of it. Used that pregnancy to lock me into something I might have walked away from otherwise. It was a gut punch. A deep one. But it also gave me clarity. Now I knew what I had to do. I waited until the weekend to bring it up. I wanted her home. No distractions, no work calls or lunch plans to escape to. Just me and her in the kitchen, where so many of our quiet routines had played out over the years. Same table. Same coffee pot. Same woman. But nothing felt familiar anymore. She came downstairs late that Saturday morning, still in her robe, hair tied back. She poured her coffee like always and gave me a quick glance. "You're up early," she said. I nodded. "Didn't sleep much." She didn't ask why. I let her sit down, take a few sips. Then I set my mug down and looked straight at her. "I went to the doctor last week," I said. She froze for a second, just barely, then set her cup down too. "Everything okay?" she asked, keeping her voice level. "Not really," I said. "He ran some tests. Turns out I have a condition. Genetic. I've had it my whole life." I paused. "I can't have children, Diane. Not now. Not ever. Never could." The silence that followed was thick. Her eyes didn't widen. Her mouth didn't drop open. She didn't gasp like someone who just heard something shocking. No, she went still. That told me everything. She didn't look surprised. She already knew. Her hands curled around the coffee cup like she was trying to ground herself. I watched her swallow, once, like she was trying to hold something down. "Those kinds of tests, they're not always accurate," she said quietly. "They're when you do two of them," I replied. She blinked. I leaned forward. "I haven't done a DNA test yet, but I will." Her shoulders tensed, and for the first time in a long time, I saw fear in her eyes. Not panic. Not guilt. Fear. "You don't need to do that," she said quickly. "It doesn't matter. You raised him. He's your son in every way that counts." I stared at her. "That's not the question I asked." She looked down. Her fingers tapped against the mug. I let the silence stretch. "I just want to know the truth," I said. "I deserve that." She stayed quiet. "You can tell me now," I added, "or I'll find out myself. Either way, I'm going to know." Finally, she spoke. "What does it change? He loves you. You love him. You've always been there. That's what matters." "No," I said, my voice low. "What matters is that you lied. For over 20 years. She looked up at me then, and I saw something crack. Her voice came out small. "We were falling apart," she whispered. "Back then. You remember. You were ready to leave. I was scared. I wanted us to stay together. I wanted a family. So you got one," I said. "Just not with me." She covered her face with her hands. "I didn't plan it that way," she said. "But you didn't stop it either." We sat in silence for a long time after that. Her head in her hands, me staring at the woman I'd slept beside for more than half my life. The mother of the boy I still called my son. The woman who looked me in the eye all those years and never once told me the truth. She didn't beg. She didn't fight. Maybe she knew it wouldn't matter. The damage was done. And for the first time in my life, I was ready to find out everything, no matter how much it hurt. The DNA test arrived in a plain white envelope. No fancy branding, no drama. Just a small kit with cotton swabs, instructions, and a barcode. I opened it alone in my office. The house was quiet. Diane was in the garden, pretending life was normal. I didn't ask for permission. I told my son it was for legal paperwork, college records, insurance, something vague enough not to raise alarms. He didn't ask many questions. Just shrugged and said, "Okay, sure, Dad," before doing the swab and handing it back. I sealed the envelope and mailed it out the same afternoon. Overnight delivery. The next few days dragged. I couldn't sleep. Couldn't concentrate. I went to work, made calls, took meetings, all on autopilot. Meanwhile, Diane tiptoed around the house like she was walking on glass, careful not to poke the bear. But it was too late. Whatever was between us had already cracked wide open. 3 days later, I got the email. The results were ready. I didn't open it right away. I just stared at my laptop screen, the cursor hovering over the subject line. Then I clicked. There it was. Probability of paternity, 0%. Black and white. No emotion. No room for hope. It hit me harder than the doctor's diagnosis. Harder than her silence. Seeing it written down. Seeing that number. It felt like the ground dropped out from under me. 21 years. 21 birthdays. Christmases. Bedtime stories. Baseball games. Every scraped knee. Every school project. Every proud moment. And none of it was built on truth. But here's the strange thing. As I sat there in my office, staring at that number, I didn't feel rage. Not like I thought I would. I didn't throw the laptop. Didn't scream. The anger had burned itself out days ago. What I felt was tired. Like a weight had finally settled into place after hovering over me for years. I leaned back in my chair, closed my eyes, and just sat there. Breathing. Letting it sink in. The damage was real now. Not imagined. Not suspected. Confirmed. She had lied. But he hadn't. My son didn't ask to be part of this mess. He didn't know. He hadn't played a part in any of it. And that thought, that one thought, is what pulled me back from the edge. He still called me Dad. He still looked at me like I hung the moon. And even though my blood didn't run in his veins, my voice echoed in his choices. My values shaped the man he was becoming. So I made a decision. I walked into the living room where Diane was pretending to read a book. She looked up fast, eyes wide like a child caught red-handed. It's confirmed, I said. No anger. No emotion. Just the truth. She didn't speak. We're getting divorced. Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. She knew what I knew, that the prenup she'd signed 2 decades ago left her with nothing. No alimony. No house. No claim to my family's business. She'd gambled on the lie and lost. And now, I was cashing her out. I'll tell him soon, I added, already walking away. She didn't follow me. Didn't ask for another chance. Because this time, she knew I meant it. She really thought I'd let it go. That I'd swallow the truth, smile through the shame, and keep pretending. Maybe she believed 20 years of silence meant I'd stay silent forever. But once you see clearly, really see, there's no going back. The moment I saw the test result, I stopped being the man she counted on, and started being the one she underestimated. I called my lawyer the next morning. We'd known each other for years. He handled my business contracts, real estate, trusts, the serious stuff. When I told him I needed to file for divorce, he didn't even ask why. He just said, I'll prepare everything. It was clean, thanks to the prenup. Signed before we ever said I do. Ironclad. She'd never cared much about it back then. I'm not marrying you for your money, she said at the time. It's just paperwork. Now that paperwork was going to be her downfall. The house was in my name. So was the second property in Maine. All the family assets, the investments, protected. She wouldn't get a dime. That had been my father's one condition when I told him I wanted to marry her. You can marry whoever you want, but the family legacy doesn't leave this bloodline. At the time, I thought it was harsh. Now, I knew it was wisdom. When she got served, she didn't even cry. She just stood in the foyer with the envelope in her hand, reading through the legal language like someone scanning an obituary. What am I supposed to do now, she asked. Figure it out, I said. Same way I had to figure out how to live with a lie for 20 years. Her family didn't take it well. Her sister called me screaming. Said I was ruining everything over one mistake. Her mother sent a long email about how family is more than blood, and how Diane had sacrificed so much. I didn't reply. There was nothing to say. They all knew. Maybe not the details, but they knew enough. Hell, part of me thinks they helped her cover it up from the beginning. They were always around when we were struggling, always whispering in her ear. Men don't stay without a reason. You have to secure your future. You deserve to be taken care of. Yeah, they knew. And now, just like her, they were losing access to the life they'd latched onto. The lawyers moved fast. Diane didn't fight it. She knew she'd lose in court. Knew the documents were airtight. So she signed. No payout. No property. No second chances. She packed her things in silence. A few clothes, some jewelry, a framed picture of our son. She asked if she could stay until the end of the month. I told her to be out by Friday. I wasn't cruel. I was just done. And the strangest part? She didn't argue. I think somewhere inside, she'd been waiting for this day. Maybe even hoping for it. The truth always finds a way out, and when it does, it burns everything fake to the ground. By the end of the week, she was gone. No goodbye. No apology. Just the faint smell of her perfume left in the hallway and an empty space in the closet where her things used to be. I stood there, quiet, and let the silence settle. It didn't feel like loss. It felt like freedom. The day the divorce was finalized, it didn't feel like an ending. Not really. It felt more like a release, like stepping out of a room where the air had been slowly running out. I showed up to court wearing a suit that fit better than it did 20 years ago. Diane was already there when I arrived. She looked smaller than I remembered. Tired. Worn out. She barely looked at me. I didn't say a word. The hearing was over in less than 20 minutes. No property to split. No custody battles. No drawn-out arguments. Just a judge reading through the paperwork, confirming signatures, and stamping it all with finality. It was done. She walked out before I did. I let her go. Watching her from behind, I didn't feel hate. I didn't even feel anger anymore. Just distance. Like I'd finally stepped away from a chapter that should have ended a long time ago. The ride home was quiet. No music. Just the sound of tires on pavement and a heart that finally felt still. I pulled into the driveway and sat in the car a few extra minutes, looking at the house, my house. It looked the same, but it felt different now. It was mine again. No secrets hiding in the walls. No silence holding up the roof. Just a clean slate. Inside, I poured myself a drink and stood in the middle of the living room, surrounded by a life I built, one that I was ready to start living, truly living, without the lie. A few days later, the news started to spread. Some friends sent texts. Heard about the divorce. You okay? I gave them the same answer every time. I'm better than I've been in years. Diane moved out of town. Nobody knew exactly where. I didn't ask. Her family stopped calling. That was fine by me. They'd had their chance to be honest a long time ago. And me? I stayed busy. I poured myself into work again, took on a few new clients, reorganized some assets, met with my estate planner. I even started going to the gym again, the way I used to before everything got complicated. But the biggest change wasn't in my house, or my bank account, or my schedule. It was in me. I stood straighter, slept better, spoke with more calm. There's a kind of power that comes with knowing you didn't fold. That when the truth came out, you faced it head-on and walked through the fire without losing who you are. I wasn't broken. I wasn't bitter. I was free. One evening, maybe a week after everything was finalized, I got a call from my son. "Hey, Dad," he said, "you got a minute?" "Always," I told him. We talked for an hour. About school, finals, a girl he was seeing. He didn't mention the divorce. I didn't bring it up either. Not yet. But I could hear something in his voice. A shift. Like he knew things weren't the same but wasn't sure how to ask. "Before we hung up," he said, "I'll be home next month. Thought we could grab a steak. Just us." I smiled. I like that. And I meant it. He pulled into the driveway just after noon. Same beat-up sedan, same lazy confidence in the way he walked. My son, 21 years old now, taller than me by an inch, carrying a duffel bag and that half-grin he's had since he was a kid. I opened the front door before he knocked. "Hey, old man," he said. "Hey, kid." We hugged. I didn't let go right away. He stayed for the weekend. We grilled steaks, watched a game, drank a couple beers out back. It felt like it always had, easy, comfortable. But there was something different too. Not in a bad way. Just heavier. Like there was something we both knew was coming. Saturday night, we sat on the porch watching the sky turn orange over the treetops. He was quiet, swirling his drink. Then he looked over at me. "She told me," he said. "I didn't ask who. I didn't have to." "When?" "A couple weeks ago. She said she didn't want to lie anymore. Said she didn't want me hearing it from you." I nodded. "I was going to tell you." "I know." He stared straight ahead, jaw tight. "She said you weren't biologically mine." I didn't speak. Then he looked at me, really looked at me. "But that doesn't change a damn thing, Dad." I felt something hit me right in the chest. Like a door unlocking I didn't even know I'd shut. "You raised me," he said. "You were there for everything. Baseball, math homework, that time I wrecked the lawnmower. You didn't walk away then. And you're not walking away now." "I wouldn't," I said, voice rough. "Never." He nodded once. That was enough. We didn't cry. We didn't hug again. We just sat there, two men who knew exactly what they meant to each other without needing a long speech to say it. The next day he packed up his bag, tossed it in the trunk, and we stood by the car a while before he left. "You need anything?" I told him. "You call. Doesn't matter what it is." "I know," he said. "Always have." He started the car, then paused and rolled down the window. "You know what she said when I asked why she did it?" "What?" "She said she was scared you'd leave. That if she didn't get pregnant, it was over." I looked down at the gravel. She was right, I said quietly. It would have been. He didn't argue. He didn't defend her. She made her choices, he said. But I made mine too. And with that, he drove off. I stood there for a long time after he was gone, watching the road until the dust settled. My house was quiet again, but it didn't feel empty, because no matter what some piece of paper said, I was still his dad. I'd been there when he was born. I taught him how to be a man. And now I taught him something else, that truth matters, but love matters more. Diane thought I'd never find out. She thought the lie would hold up forever. She was wrong. But in the end, I didn't lose a son. I just lost the woman who never deserved either of us. And I can live with that.